everything you have been told about getting older is a dangerous half-truth. If your body feels older when you wake up than when you went to bed, that is not always aging. It can be sugar damage. Internal rust. You feel it as heavy legs. Morning stiffness. Brain fog that hangs behind the eyes. A dull, slow start. The engine does not turn over cleanly. That matters, because the body is not just wearing out. It is reacting. Across decades of clinical medicine, longevity-focused physicians keep returning to the same ugly mechanism. Not fate. Not bad luck. Exposure. Repetition. Friction. When blood sugar rises hard and often, sugar does not just circulate. It collides. It sticks. It binds to proteins and fats and leaves residue behind. Some doctors describe that process as one of the hidden reasons people feel old before their time. And one simple food habit keeps appearing in that conversation. Not a drug. Not an expensive powder. A daily piece of metabolic armor. I will get to that exact protocol in a moment. First, ask yourself something. Why do you feel stiffest when the day has barely started? Why does the head feel foggy before the real work even begins? Why do the fingers feel thick? The knees tight? The first steps rusty? Because the problem is not only in the calendar. It is in the chemistry. But to understand why that one habit matters, you have to see what this hidden sugar rust is doing inside you right now. The name is advanced glycation and sugar-protein crosslinking. Clinical language. Cold language. But the picture is brutal. Sugar behaves like corrosive residue in a machine. It glues itself to the body's moving parts. Flexible tissue becomes rough. Slick surfaces lose their coating. Proteins that should bend start to harden. The damage does not announce itself with sirens. It accumulates like sludge in valves and rust on load-bearing joints. Look closely. A sugar molecule meets a protein strand. It latches on like hot resin hitting a cable. Then another. Then another. The structure thickens. Hardens. Distorts. In blood vessels, that means the endothelial lining, the Teflon coating of the arterial wall, becomes easier to scratch and less able to relax. In joints, collagen fibers lose spring and start behaving more like old rope soaked in glue. In the brain, proteins and membranes face more oxidative pressure, more shrapnel, more sparks, more friction in a tissue that runs on exquisite precision. This is why a person can feel old and still be told the numbers are fine. Standard care often hunts the downstream marker. Blood pressure. Glucose average. Cholesterol snapshot. Symptom management matters. Medication has a place. But upstream exposure still keeps entering the system 3 times a day, sometimes 5. The fire is not only in the lab report. It is in the meal pattern. In the liquid sugar. In the refined flour. In the dessert attached to the starch-heavy plate. And this is why so many people are told their numbers are acceptable while the damage keeps accumulating quietly. Now leave the clinic for a second. Think about tying your shoes. Climbing the stairs. Reaching for a familiar word and feeling it stall in the throat. That is where people feel this process. Not in a textbook. In the body. In the pause. In the heaviness. In the sense that the machine still runs, but with drag. Sit with that for a second. Doctors who spend years watching metabolic decline see the same pattern again and again. Not everyone ages at the same speed. Some are being aged by repeated chemical abrasion. Repeated caramelization. Internal browning. Sugar heat without the visible flame. The body keeps trying to repair. The self-cleaning protocol keeps trying to clear debris. But if new residue keeps pouring in, repair turns into a losing shift. Once you see the damage clearly, the doctor's first line of defense stops sounding simple and starts sounding almost surgical. The food is legumes, beans, lentils, chickpeas, mung beans. A plain food. A quiet food. But in this context, it works like a glycation shield. A cleanup and brake system. The goal is not glamour. The goal is fewer glucose spikes crashing into tissue. Less fuel for the villain. Less abrasive residue moving through the pipes. Here is the practical protocol many clinicians and nutrition-focused physicians use as a food-first starting point. About 1 cup cooked per day. Preferably earlier in the day, or as the anchor of the largest meal. Whole. Minimally processed. No sugary sauces. No candy glaze pretending to be health. Pair it with greens or non-starchy vegetables. That combination slows absorption further. It flattens the glucose curve. It reduces the violent surge that feeds glycation. The mechanism is mechanical. Fiber forms drag in the digestive tract. It slows the flood. It forces a steadier release of glucose into the bloodstream. The gatekeeper key, insulin, does not have to slam every door at once. The system runs with less strain. This is not magic. It is load management. If you dump a truck of sticky material into a narrow pipe, pressure rises. If you meter the flow, the pipe survives. Legumes meter the flow. They lower the raw material available for internal rust. They also feed the microbiome, which produces compounds that support metabolic stability and reduce inflammatory wildfire. Different pathway. Same mission. Less corrosion. Better control. A new threat enters here, and most people miss it. Glycation does not stop at joints. It reaches blood vessels. It reaches the brain. A stiff artery does not deliver with the same grace. A brain exposed to repeated glucose volatility does not fire with the same clarity. You do not just feel older in the knees. You can feel older in conversation. In recall. In focus. In that afternoon crash when the lights seem on but dimmed behind the glass. That is why the humble bean matters. Not because it is fashionable. Because it changes traffic. It changes speed. It changes collision frequency. And when collision frequency falls, the system gets a chance to repair instead of just absorb damage. If lentils or black beans are common in your kitchen, use them. If they are not, the function still matters more than the brand. Chickpeas work. Mung beans work. Regional pulses work. The question is not whether the label sounds Western. The question is whether the food carries fiber, slows glucose release, and reduces the spike. That is the job. There are supporting tools. Leafy greens are one. Think of them as vascular maintenance. They support the arterial lining, the Teflon coating, and help create a friendlier metabolic environment. A practical target is 1 to 2 large servings each day. Cinnamon or vinegar with meals may also help blunt the post-meal rise in some people. Not a license for junk. A small break, not a pardon. Walking after meals matters too. 10 to 15 minutes after a main meal acts like opening a second drain. Muscles pull glucose out of circulation. Pressure falls. The bloodstream carries less excess fuel for crosslinking. And this is where many people sabotage the repair without realizing it.